Welcome back, Red Spotters, and the Red Spotlight Podcast. I'm your host today, Alexis J. Soto, joined by Miss Alexis Moreno, and we're back with our fourth and final, you can already believe that, recap installment of The Crown. The previous 3 episodes, we talked about the first 3 seasons, and now we're here to bring it all home with season 4. Yeah, it's gonna be fun. This is Red Spotlight number 297. Season 4 of The Crown, which actually just dropped just a few months back. I think it was toward the end of November, if I'm not mistaken, and has already been recognized for its greatness. Just before getting into the premise and everything, so far it seems as if the 4th season has been received really well. I mean, more than just well, just like people are loving this, or hate watching this. I don't know. It's a different experience with the dynamics at play. But, season 4, I know how you and I both said, we had, I think, previous seasons where maybe our favorites. In yours, it was with 2, and mine, it was with 3. And after watching, I actually went back and rewatched the season this past week to just get ready for this. And I don't know, I think this season might have been the best one yet.
Yeah. I mean, this is personal to me though. The second one I just really loved, but this one was so good.
It was great. I mean, there's a lot of I think it's for all of the reasons that we've already discussed in the previous episodes about what makes a great season of The Crown, it does that. Yeah. There are just great through lines here that just make this addictive watching television, if that's even a phrase to say. Of course, again, before we start, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention, the fact that on the date of this recording, The Crown has also, or season 4 of The Crown, has been recognized by some of the guilds. The Golden Globe Awards have actually nominated the television series for quite a number of big prizes. The Crown was nominated for Best Drama Series, alongside some honestly pretty mediocre crap. I'm not going to say which one. If you've seen our feed, I think you'll know which one I'm talking about. It's kind of really the laughing stock of the century, in my opinion, that was even included in anything, more so than, it's hilarious to me. Every day, all day long on Twitter, people are crapping on the Globes for some Jared Leto getting nominated. No, there's pretty one obscene nomination, and it's pretty disgusting to me how no one considers it a controversial take. But anyway, I don't want to get lost in that. Congratulations to The Crown for getting nominated for Best Drama Series. Both Olivia Colman and Emma Corrin were nominated for Best Actress for the role of Queen Elizabeth, and also Princess Diana, or Lady Di, or Princess Di as she's called. Josh O'Connor was also nominated for Best Actor for the Prince of Wales, Prince Charles. And then also for Best Supporting Actress, we have Gillian Anderson as Margaret Thatcher, and Helena Bonham Carter as Princess Margaret. So congratulations to all of them. Actually, really happy for those nominations. They're really well deserved.
Yeah. Everybody, everybody every season does really good. But this season, I feel I don't know, everything was just, I loved it so much.
I loved it too. I loved it, yeah. If that's already we're giving away how we feel, but overall, I think we both loved it. And there's a lot to get into here. So let's go ahead and start with that. So The Crown, Season 4. The 4th season covers the time period between 1979 and 1990. It is set during Margaret Thatcher's premiership and introduces Lady Diana Spencer. Events depicted include the wedding of Prince Charles and Lady Diana Spencer, their 1983 tour of Australia and New Zealand, the Falklands War, Michael Fagan's break-in at Buckingham Palace. That was an incredible moment.
Oh my god.
Lord Mountbatten's funeral. The Princess of Wales appearance at the Barnardo's Champion Children Awards. And Thatcher's departure from office. Yeah. I mean, basically, we have... This is still very much Elizabeth's show, and she does get her episodes. She does get, she's not, I guess, pushed to the side, but definitely she's competing a little bit of screen time with the emergence of Diana, right? So it's Diana is introduced this season, Thatcher is introduced this season, but I mean, I think if we're going to look back on this year of the crown, this is going to be known as the Charles and Diana show for the most part, because they do suck up in more ways than one a lot of the oxygen this season. So I think we should just go ahead and jump straight to those two, because my goodness, just on the performances alone, we've already, I think, commented in the past episode how great Josh O'Connor was as Prince Charles. He's even better this season. I mean, the acting.
You hate him, but you love him. You feel bad for him, but you hate him so much. Oh, jeez.
Yeah, with him.
So many emotions with this character.
It has to be like one of the more like, I don't know, roller coaster relationships in television. Not I don't mean like with Charles and Diana. I mean like with the audience and Charles, because we go up and we go down. We go up and we go down in terms of like, a lot of his shit, really. But no, Josh O'Connor is amazing this season, and so is Emma Corrin. Apparently she was a relative unknown when she was cast at this role, and she, I mean, it's like leaping off the pages of history like that. That felt like the real Princess Diana.
Yeah, she was amazing. I loved her. It's like, I don't know if it like has to do with her playing Diana, but I just think that she did so good that she made it her own, but also embraced Diana. And I don't know how she was able to do that, and it was just so good.
I mean, I guess what I believe it's Elizabeth Debicki and Dominic West who are going to be taking on the roles in season 5, right? Those are the actors who are going to be following Josh O'Connor and Emma Corrin. Because, of course, with season 5, we're jumping in another...
I hate that she doesn't get a second season.
But I was going to say, like, I kind of feel bad for Dominic West and for Elizabeth Debicki, because, like, how do you follow this?
Yeah.
These two, the connection with these two is, like, off. Like, it's literally on fire.
Yeah.
It's electric. Not, I mean, in also the moments where they have genuine connections, but even more so when they're literally just like murdering each other.
Yeah. And it's funny because I was going to say, I feel like we got cheated because we only get one season with her.
Yeah.
But like, I guess people felt that way in real life. So.
Oh, shit.
I guess it makes sense.
To be clear, we are getting another season with Princess Diana, the character, not with Emma Corrin, but yeah, that's kind of the elephant in the room. I wasn't sure if, we'll get to that at the end because that's a lot of other stuff. It's a little bit of uncomfortable discussing that unfortunate incident, but no, those two they're kind of the season in many ways, and it's so complicated. It's so complicated in the way, as people, or we the audience who are really loving this show, they do a great job as the season progresses of making us feel just completely different about their dynamic and their relationship. I mean, if it wasn't already, we start the season with baggage. that we had from last season, in the sense that we knew already that Charles is in love with Camilla, but the family was basically, that's not happening.
Mm-hmm.
And so they started off the season with like, they're waiting and waiting and waiting for him to like, you know, fall in love with somebody else. And Diana comes into the picture while he's meeting some other girl, and they have an immediate spark.
Yeah.
And it's really,
I don't know. Okay, so when I first saw that scene, I was like, oh, like, it felt, I mean, they made it look like a fairy tale.
Mm-hmm.
And it did feel that way, and I loved it. But then Google came into the picture. I started looking stuff up. This guy's like 10 years older than her. They met like this. The scene that we're talking about was really early on.
Yeah.
She was like, she was really young.
Yeah, that's one of the things that we have to really clarify between fiction and what actually happened in life. I think they do mention it toward the middle of the season that, Charles is older and Diana is younger. But yeah, I think it was Anne, Princess Anne, that says it's not just that, is that Charles is much older, like mentally, than he is, you know, than his age would have. And then, and then she's much younger than her already young age is. So I guess that could be part. I mean, I don't know. I think Josh O'Connor is so great. I wouldn't have had anybody else do it. But that's kind of, I think, a little bit of the trade-off you have here, because we go through 11 years, supposedly, I think, worth of material in 10 episodes. And as I mentioned, I think in the first season, you're not entirely sure where exactly we are every time a new installment begins, if we've passed a year or 2 years or 5, like you're never really clear. Because I think it was in the second to last episode, they're celebrating his 37th birthday, Charles, and then by the finale, which is the next episode, he's already 42. So there's like lapses in time that we like skip forward between it, but he still looks the same. Yeah. And the thing is, by the time we get to the end of the season, Josh O'Connor is supposed to be playing a 42-year-old. I think he's 30. And he looks younger than that still. He looks like in his mid-20s. So I think there is a little bit of a I guess a discrepancy there, but you know, I mean, but in real life, he is much older than she is. And I mean, I guess we don't want to like make that the issue. That definitely played into why the marriage ultimately wasn't working. And again, we're talking about in the show. We can't definitely speak to what happened in real life, but we're talking about what the show, and clearly what the show is saying is part of the reason for why they don't really get along all that well, is because there's just nothing in common between them, and they have different interests, they have different worlds. But that's also part of the sad commentary is, well, the sad thing is, this was an arranged marriage for all intents and purposes by the royal family. It's hilarious how they're so far up their own ass. Like they give permission to Charles, like, marry her. No, not even permission.
No, they don't even ask her, like, you're going to marry her.
Yeah, they command him, marry her. Of course, he doesn't want to, because he hates the fact that he's being made to marry anybody who doesn't want to. He's in love with somebody else. And obviously what was going to happen is, if you force this person to marry somebody he doesn't want to marry, he's going to resent her. He's going to throw all of the resentment toward her, and that's going to destroy this person, both of these people. That doesn't occur to them, obviously. And then what's even sadder is Diana actually does several times want to commit to this relationship, want to commit to this marriage. She does fall for him. But at the same time, though, she's not entirely clueless. There are signs, very early red flags. that she, you know, really picks up on. You know, I think it was in episode 3 that they kind of defined the season, because Charles was like, after he had already proposed, after he was told to propose, he gives her a ring, then he leaves out of nowhere, gets on a plane, gets the fuck out of there, tells her, oh, by the way, my ex-girlfriend's in town and she wants to get to know you, so if you have any questions, go to her. But that wasn't even the worst part. Like, okay, so he leaves, he says, go.
He doesn't even say ex-girlfriend, he says my good friend.
Yeah, my good friend Camilla. That,
like, my blood was boiling throughout that whole thing.
And she rightfully asks, your ex-girlfriend? Why? Like, okay, like, that should have been a longer conversation. Yeah. I mean, just for the sake of courtesy, right? But no, he just dropped that on her. But
like, what was the reason?
I don't know. That you asked yourself that question several times with whatever decisions Charles makes. Like, you never really know. Like, part of me feels like he does these things to slight her because he's angry that she exists and that she is being made to marry her. I feel like that's a lot of the reasons why he lashes out at her, is because she's the living embodiment of everything he hates. Mm-hmm.
But that's
it's unfortunate. It's not. It's not at all. And look, in fairness to her, with the first episode that she sees the family, they're all nice and they're charming and they get to and they accept her and she's really all like welcomed in and everything. But he really should have prepared her for the absolute, as she says, I think in this season, the frozen tundra that it feels like to be in that family. You know, like, she's immediately met with like elitism and this kind of pretentious crap, and she's moved into the palace and there's no one to talk to. Yeah. And I don't understand how you...
Like, that, like, really irks me because... I don't know. That really shows the kind of person that he is. Like, he just, like, doesn't give a fuck about her.
But it's not just him. It's not just him. It's all of them. Why? Because she
like,
kept...
they're the ones in the relationship, and he's the one that is with her, and he knows why. Mm-hmm. Like... You know, at least, like, the least he could have done is maybe told her, like, hey, this is what's going on. Are you in or are you out? Like, give her an option and just be straight out with her. And maybe, you know, she'll understand, and maybe, like, the things that happened wouldn't have happened, and maybe they could have worked, but, like, been together but separately. I don't know, something.
Yeah, no. It's unfortunate, and like that entire episode, like the red flags are like slapping her in the face. Like the first one was, oh, I'm leaving. The second one was, talk to Camilla. And she goes to Camilla, and then she realizes in that sequence, while they're stuffing their faces with chocolate, that she doesn't know Charles at all, and that Camilla knows everything there is to know about Charles. That already gives her like a really like cold chill in the back, you know, of her spine. And then she finds designs of a locket that he's having made for Gladys, and I forget what the other name was. They're nicknames for each other, Charles and Camilla. And she rightfully tries to get the queen on the line and, you know, trying to salvage herself from a disaster, because she rightfully predicts this marriage can't go on, because she knows better. She's too smart for that. But at the same time, I don't know how many warnings or how many times you have to tell Elizabeth, this is exactly what's going to happen. And then she goes ahead and plows through it anyway. Yeah. Why did she not respond? I don't think did she in that episode, did she ever get to see the queen?
I don't think so. It wasn't until way later, like years later.
Years later. So it wasn't in that moment. And
even then she was still very like, don't worry about it.
She's always that way. It doesn't matter what. That's always her answer. Do nothing, literally. And then there are many times in the season where she's repeatedly mocked by her own children in her own like circle. I think Thatcher says it to her face one time. Like, sometimes, doing nothing is not anything powerful for me. Even her daughter, I think Princess Anne, looks at her with this ugly way. Like, is doing nothing your answer to everything? Like, she keeps getting that thrown in her face, and rightfully so, because what works for you doesn't work for anybody else.
Yeah.
And so, like, okay, so Diana didn't mention anything. Margaret did. Margaret was the only person that realized while they were at the rehearsal for the wedding, oh, yeah, these two people they're not in love. They don't want to do this. Particularly Charles doesn't want to do this. And so she gets the cabal together. She gets her mom, Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, then the Queen, and then Prince Philip. And she lays that all out there. Like, he doesn't love her. And immediately the mom is like, I don't care. And then Prince Philip he's marrying her. Mm-hmm. Just immediately shut down the conversation. And then and Margaret has to say, how many times do we have to make the same mistake?
Yeah. And I love the way that she presented that line, because it felt very genuine. Mm-hmm. It felt like she was crying for them. It was so good.
And she's right. And then, like, Elizabeth, this is the thing with Elizabeth. She makes a lot of really naive decisions, but there are moments where you see that she tries. And so she understands and she recognizes what Margaret was saying. This is the night, I guess, before the wedding. Mm-hmm. There are fireworks going off in front of Buckingham Palace. She walks all the way down to go talk to her son, her firstborn son. And she reiterates the same line. I think we've seen this speech thousands of times that her grandmother, Queen Mary, kept telling her. And she even used Queen Mary and her marriage as an example. And she basically just says to Charles, you can be like that too. And just the complete hypocrisy. Well, maybe not even hypocrisy, but just like the lapse in judgment. Like, okay, in this moment, son, I recognize that you are being forced into a marriage you don't want to be in. But if you hang in there, you can do it too. Like that. And then, of course, what was really heartbreaking, and this next moment is just, completely silent. It's just Olivia Colman and Josh O'Connor, exchanging expressions in their face. Charles looks just to her with tears in his eyes, just completely miserable and unhappy that he's being forced to do this. And then she herself is taken aback by his reaction and then does nothing.
You just want to shake these people.
Oh my gosh. And that's just 3 episodes in. That pretty much covers in where we are with them. But like, it's so important that in many of the early instances and interactions, the direction this is going to go. It's kind of like, when we mentioned Beryl, the relationship with Tony and Margaret, you just know the direction that's going to take. It's so easy to prevent this, and yet no one does anything.
Yeah. And even if you don't know the ending of their story, because we've seen it for the past 3 seasons.
Yeah, we have. Now, also, I think let's see if I can back up here a little bit. In particular with Charles, he seemed pretty adamant that he wasn't going to kowtow to their wishes to be forced to marry somebody he doesn't want to. Mm-hmm. I think what the show did was to kind of shake Charles a little bit with the assassination of Lord Mountbatten, played by Charles Dance here, Uncle Dickie. Mm-hmm. That was intense. I wasn't
That was-
expecting that.
Oh my god, I know. I was shooketh. That was crazy.
Too.
I was like, something's about to happen, but I don't know what's gonna happen. And then it finally does happen, and you're like, oh, what the fuck?
It gave me that same like sense of dread. Remember last season we talked about the tragic accident that happened? Like, we're lingering on this way too long.
Yeah.
Something bad's coming.
Yeah.
You know?
That was a really good episode too, because I mean, he was kind of a big character. He was basically the father figure to both of them. And I know I mentioned something about it in last episode, but this episode has a scene where I was like, holy crap. Because in this episode, Philip basically admits to Charles that he resents him for having such a close relationship with Uncle Dickie.
Yeah.
Which is fucking nuts. And it was wild. And like, because I never kind of put it together. And then after he said the words, I was like, oh, you really hate your fucking kid, huh?
I mean, it's been obvious, I think, from day one that Charles has, I don't think, really ever been loved. I mean, the way that a child should be loved by their parents.
Yeah.
Just putting it out there. And but where he was getting that was from Dickie, Lord Mountbatten. No, that sequence was pretty horrific because, like, it was juxtaposed with other members of the royal family hunting. But in this case, it was Mountbatten being hunted by these terrorists or these these extremists that wanted to, I guess, for whatever reason it was awful. But I mean, and you saw the horrifying reaction or the horrifying scream that Charles let out when he got the news. Like, for all intents and purposes, that was his father.
Yeah.
And perhaps the most love he'd ever received from any of the family. Maybe the closest thing to an ally. And that relationship was pretty strained already because of his involvement with hooking Camilla up with, Mr. Parker Bowles. Yeah. But still, he was gone in an instant. And that was... I'm going to... What I take from this show is that and the letter especially, is what pushed him to, I guess, play more along with the idea of marrying someone that wasn't Camilla. The thing with Charles is, and we'll get to this part later, is throughout the season, I asked myself, like, okay, in this moment, you do seem sincere in wanting to make this work. But then later on, we see other instances. So, like, I wonder if that's all just Charles just being completely indecisive, as is his nature, I think, from what the show establishes. But to go back to what you were saying, that was one of the best moments in the show. And also one of the saddest moments. Because, Philip is, admitting that he has resented his own son because his Dickie, his father figure, his pseudo father, Uncle Dickie. Okay, that's not.
Sorry.
I expect that from Kyle, not from you. Okay, let's.
I talk to him too much.
Yeah, you probably do. Yeah. Okay, great. Now we're off track here. Oh shit. Anyway, he's telling his son that he basically has resented him because his own father figure abandoned him for his own son. And so, at the same time, it is like a genuine, probably the most genuine moment they ever have as father and son in the entire series. And at the same time, it is pretty rich. I mean, Philip has never really lost. I mean, Philip, I think, says to Elizabeth in this season that your lack of self-awareness is breathtaking. Well, so is yours, Philip. It always has been, especially when it comes to your own children, because it was not lost on me that, at least initially, Charles was taking that as a rare bonding moment between, his father and him, to mourn together the death of somebody who was a father to both of them. And Charles says, a father to us both. And then Philip lashes out, what are you talking about? You have a father. Mm-hmm. And then Charles looks back with that look like, no, no. And the irony that Philip can't see that. Like, he doesn't really have a father, dude. Like,
yeah.
What are you to him at this point? You dismiss him at every turn? And then I think it was later on in the season where Charles is having a private audience with Elizabeth. Philip walks in, turns the TV on because Thatcher's being stabbed in the back, which is a hilarious show. That's a sideshow in and of itself. And then shushes Charles like, shh, I want to... Like, he's very dismissive toward him.
Which
he always has been.
Nuts. You would think that at least that they would take the time to... I mean, it might sound bad, but take the time to be with him more, since he's the one that's going to take over the crown at some point. Like, you would think that, I don't know, but their egos keep getting in the way.
It just seemed to me, based on just, the flashbacks that I'm getting in the early episodes of season 1, that King George, Elizabeth and Margaret's father, he felt like a real parent. Even though there was the pomp and circumstance of the crown, Elizabeth and Margaret always felt loved by their father.
Yeah.
You get the sense with these children, especially when we get to the episode favorites. Mm-hmm. You can't say the same for them, especially in Charles' situation. Anne seems mostly indifferent. Of course, she's mostly connected to her father with Philip. Mm-hmm. Edward and Andrew are mainly just kind of there. Elizabeth even feels the need to explain herself later on in that episode why she wanted to have Edward and Andrew. But to talk about this particular issue of the season even more so, that episode favorites was really eye-opening. And I think finally, kind of the episode I've been waiting 4 seasons for was really for Elizabeth to grapple with perhaps her own absence in the lives of the fact that she has to go to Martin and ask her, can you give me a list of their hobbies, their interests?
Yeah.
Just tells you how much she doesn't know these people. And the fact that she had lunch with them on a one-on-one basis individually, and that they all were weirded out and had to call other people to ask, hey, what the hell is this about? What's going on here?
Mom called you.
it just I think that speaks volumes about the family. They come together, they're for Christmas or for birthdays, and you see them happy and everything. But you have to ask yourself in moments like these, do they really know each other? Do they really, really love each other? How did that whole episode come off to you? Because Elizabeth kept trying to figure out, okay, which one of these is my favorite. My impression was that she was horrified by what she found out, and that she felt like she failed completely.
She was she was horrified by all of them, but I think she was sad for Anne. She was just, I don't know. But that episode I thought was really cool. I thought it was a really funny episode, actually.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
With I don't know, everybody's interactions. I loved Philip and her talking, and him being like, "We all know who your favorite is. How do you not? You just have to admit it." She was like, "What? No." But it was also interesting because when he said that, at least for me, even I was like, wait, who's your favorite? You have a favorite?
Yeah. We never see them with you.
Yeah. And so that's kind of funny. And then when she finally starts going to them, And I think my favorite was Charles, as she was so bored.
She was over it. Like the second she got there, yeah.
That was really good. And then, I mean, I don't really know a lot about this whole situation, but the whole Epstein thing, that was a little crazy.
It was a little creepy.
Yeah. So that was interesting. That one I only found out because I, like, on TikTok, I saw people talking about it. Yeah. And I was like, wait, I don't understand what these people are saying. So then I, like, had to look it up, and I was like, oh, that's really bad.
In regards to Prince Andrew, and then the exchange that he has with his mom, talking about some movie with, you know, young women being forced to do horrible things with older men, and it's like, yeah, that felt like it was an intentional dig at the real Prince Andrew because of his connections with Epstein, whatever they are. I'm not really that well. It's upsetting to hear about things like that, so I don't go out of my way to read the details because it just sounds horrible. Yeah. But I would be scared too. He scared me, literally.
And it was crazy because that one was her favorite.
But how though?
I don't know.
It's a big. I don't understand, really.
Maybe because he was the more open one, but like, look what that got him.
Yeah, I guess you could say like Andrew is the Margot to Charles. Yeah. Where I guess like Andrew is just the more charming personality that could easily, I guess, take on the persona of a public figure. Mm-hmm. But no, we don't really explore, I guess, any resentment between that all that much, except for later on in the season where he's having his wedding, and then he tells his mom that Edward is going to be his best man, not Charles. And apparently he did that to slight Charles. So that was like one indication of there being some resentment. But it came back in the most hilarious way possible in that episode, I think, when the wedding is actually happening. He's pissed off. Andrew's pissed off that, you know, this sideshow is happening with Thatcher and the Queen, that it's taking away from his wedding, his spotlight and everything. And then Charles, and you got to give him props for this. He says some of the most hilarious shit ever on this show, where it's like, well, why would anyone care about a fringe member of the family? And then they all look at him like he's there with Anne and Edward and Andrew. They all look at him like, did you really just say that? No, I mean, they even ask, like, I think Charles even explains that, well, yeah, I'm next in line. And then by the time my sons had sons, like, yeah, fringe probably the right word for you. Then and then he's like looking at his watch. Let's get this over with. He walks away on his wedding day. And then literally Andrew says, did he really just say that? And then Edward's like, I'm not going to say the whole thing because there's a graphic word in there, but like, that was impressively expletive of him. Basically trying to say that was impressively bitchy of him. I was hilarious. That was so much fun. But no, Elizabeth says, like, she shares this story about, like, when she was growing up, she always told herself that she insisted that she would bathe the children. But when it came time with Charles, she let the nannies do it. So there is probably maybe the only time we see her kind of have a real regret as a parent, as a mother. We hardly ever get to see any of that. That never seems to be the drive of all of this. It's always duty first, always being mother to the nation, mother to the institution. But there is a concession on her part that I think she recognizes that she really feels on some level she mishandled everything with the kids.
Yeah. Which, yeah, you did.
Yeah. But then at the same time, like, you also have to just like, and I thought this to myself while watching this season. Like, she is capable of feeling. She is capable of expressing empathy. But it just seems like her burden is that she can never show that to any of her own family.
Which is
But she
ridiculous.
can. But she can extend that to other people. Like, for example, in the episode Fagin, where Mr. Fagin breaks in to Buckingham Palace, which is a very, very good episode.
Yeah. That was wild.
But this is somebody who broke in, who scared the shit out of her, who felt petrified the entire time. But she could find it in herself to make some kind of human connection and empathize with his situation and where he was coming from, to the point where she even defended him to Philip, to Thatcher. And she brought it up to Thatcher. Okay. Even later on in the season, where Thatcher's on her way out, and she gives her the Award of Merit.
Yeah.
Right? Like, because she feels sorry for what happened to her. So she can find it in herself. And I wonder if maybe it's because she feels she's not able to show this side of her, and that she has to be tougher with her family, that she has to overcompensate for that by, you know, I mean, you should empathize with anybody. I mean, I feel that that's what we should do as human beings, is to be able to see, you know, something from another person's point of view. But at the same time, like, she's repeatedly just throwing so much cold water on, maybe not, I mean, Charles, yes, but Margot's been alive a lot longer, and she's been getting that bucket of cold water thrown down her back every single season. And even here with Margaret, where she obviously her health is deteriorating. She had to have a procedure because of the smoking. And she even, again, I think for the 4th time in the show, has to, like, literally on her knees beg, please just give me something to do. Give me something to do. And how does Elizabeth respond to that? She shows up to her house, and then she tells her, oh, because Edward has come of age now, you, my sister Margaret, now have to relinquish whatever small role you had left. Which inevitably caused her to go into a downward spiral.
Yeah.
And then and there's other things that happen with Margaret there, but it's just, the whole thing is about Elizabeth here is, what the fuck? And then also Diana too. Like, she's very, very cold with Diana. She acts like, when she hugged her,
and she was like, what the fuck are you doing?
and then she's having a conversation with, you know, with Margaret, with, you know, her mom, and then with Anne, like, she hugged you. And they all treat it like it was, like, strange for family to hug.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, in general, Elizabeth is very, very, well, not just her. A lot of them are cold with Diana.
She's just, I don't know. Like, it's weird and interesting to think about it. Like, yeah, why is she okay to showing emotion to others that are not in her family? When, I don't know, I feel like that's kind of where it all starts. You know, like, one, teach your kids to be that way. Because imagine if, like, they get into power and they treat people the way that they've been treated their whole lives. Like, that's not how it works, dude.
Yeah, I mean, they even, like, again, with this show, there's just so many, like, little small oddities about the royal family that they just make you go, like, what? When they were all eating and they were criticizing Diana because she wanted to take her newborn son with her to the tour in Australia. And meanwhile, you and I are thinking, finally, somebody that actually is acting like a real person. Like, why would any mother want to leave their newborn baby anywhere where they're not? And then Elizabeth is just like, she says, oh, I heard that she was hysterical, holding on to him like this. I think even in that sequence where they were discussing this particular incident while they were having breakfast and everything, that I think Anne brings up to the fact that maybe that's why the people love her so much, because she actually acts like a real person. And Elizabeth just can't, I think, comprehend that. And then she keeps saying that how her tour with Philip was a great success.
And
while at the same time,
her
Anne
and Margaret look at each other like, bitch, seriously?
Yeah, and Anne, because Anne was left behind the entire time with Charles. And it's like, hello, do you not like put one and one together here? Like, do you not see how the success perhaps was not the headline here? Maybe it was the fact that you left your kids, but okay. It's just, there's a lot of these moments throughout the season. Anyway, I'm going to let you decide where to go off next. Where do you want to go in terms of like what character, what storyline, what episode?
There was one that you mentioned, but let's I feel like this season is different because different episodes instead of people this time. But I wanted to talk about the break-in.
Yes, that one was pretty intense.
Yeah.
It also is like, I love how the episode starts with this like montage of real news clippings of the day from that incident. And like the purpose of it, because it definitely was effective on me, like, wait, this actually happened? Somebody broke into Buckingham Palace and into the Queen's bedroom.
That's crazy.
So what about this episode made you respond so well to it?
The guy who broke into the palace,
Mr. Fagin,
not once but 2 times,
twice,
might I add. I thought he was amazing.
Yeah,
he was so good. And I think that episode is the episode that captures that era, because all we see is, the royals and what they're going through, but he represents what is actually going on in the real world. So yeah, I don't know, I just thought that was really interesting. And because I have seen like movies, I mean, that's like the only thing I can base it off of, where they talk about this era, and it always does seem very like people are unhappy and people are struggling everywhere. So it was kind of cool to find out a little bit more as to why that was happening, or why the movies that I saw during this era are presented this way.
And the answer's pretty fucking clear, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's that devil woman, as he says. Thatcherism. Yeah, it worked out beautiful, didn't it? It worked out beautifully for Britain. No, I love the episode in many ways, because that is the human cost to conservatism. That is the human cost to the kind of policies. And let's be completely real here. Mr. Fagin's experience was as a result of a policy that was working as it was intended. Because even after, and it is horrifying to see how his life just completely falls apart, how nothing goes right for him. There's no work. And why is there no work? We begin the season with this big, bold, new personality in the form of Margaret Thatcher. She's the first woman prime minister Only problem is she's a hardcore right-winger, more so than what the quote-unquote conservative party, which we have to also remind ourselves here, a conservative party in Britain at that time, it seemed, based on what they describe, was basically a neoliberal, pro-corporate friendly, but also they say to her, you know, our values are, you know, to being moderate and, you know, in moderation, not to be too extreme to one side or the other. But she's not about that at all. And so she fires most of them. She brings in new people who are all basically taking the ideological spectrum of the conservative party more into the right. And what that means is they're making him more conservative, into more, you know, Ronald Reagan, more of what we see today. And here's the situation. And I think they make a great point of this. The show, you know, reminds this of you several times before we lead to episode 5, which is the one with Mr. Fagan. Mm-hmm. The issues with unemployment and with social welfare programs and them being strained and with budget cuts and people, you know, being out of work, they don't seem to start to happen until after Thatcher has already implemented her policies. And they keep telling you, especially in episode 5, that Mr. Fagan's life collapsing is a direct result of the policies that Mrs. Thatcher instituted. And what does Thatcher have to say about any of this when Elizabeth brings this up? I have the direct quote here because it pissed me off so much, but this is the important part. I know it's funny, but it did piss me off. It was horrendous, but it was true. It was true to how she felt. And I feel it is true to who people who are like-minded as her feel. And they feel that they're so right in their point of view. They don't understand, I think, the
implications.
Well, not the implications. No, the implications are intended. They don't understand. They don't recognize how what they believe and the policies that they fight for. Well, actually, that's not even true. They recognize that it's heartless. They don't care. And they're proud of it because this is what she says. So Elizabeth gives her this long list of the programs that have been cut and how people are suffering. And Thatcher says this: if we are to turn this country around, we really must abandon outdated and misguided notions of collective duty. Elizabeth basically tells her this whole thing that people like me are all about and subscribe to is we're all in this together. Mm-hmm. You know, we're supposed to look out for each other because that's the decent thing to do. That's the human thing to do. And what does Thatcher say to this? No, we're not in this together. We're in this to get ahead. Mm-hmm. And then she reinforces that later on, I think in a different episode, when she says, Britons are learning to look out for number one, to get ahead. And only then, only when you get ahead, and if they choose to look out for their neighbor. I can't think of a better way to describe what conservatism or Thatcherism is than those words.
Yeah.
Because that's exactly how their policies are designed. Because what happens every single time that they're passed into law? Oh, that's right. The working people get killed. Just the other day, the Department of, I think it was the Bureau of Labor Statistics released, just a bare bones graph about how many jobs were gained or lost, going all the way back to, I think, George W. Bush, right? Mm-hmm. Actually, that's not even true. Bill Clinton. And the two Democratic presidencies had significant increases in jobs that were created. And the two Republican presidencies, George Bush had a very minuscule uptick in jobs created. And then Donald Trump had a net loss of 3 million jobs. It is beyond clear, and it has been since the fucking 1980s, where conservative policies get you, what the direct result of it is. And yet, everyone on the planet, or most people on the planet, can't grasp the notion. They can't see the pattern that consistently happens again and again and again. So I can't, and the thing with Thatcher is, like, her policies are horrendous. Her demeanor can sometimes be very off-putting because she's so full of herself, and so she's not exactly supposed to be, or is in this show, the most sympathetic of people.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
God,
I guess it's like, I saw it a little bit differently. I mean, I guess I was a little bit like, oh, she's a woman, that's kind of cool.
well, I'm not saying that that's absent from my experience of it. That is cool. And the moments, I think, let me break this down even further. It's because, look, I can't divorce the politics from it. That's where I can't do that myself.
Yeah,
But if I were,
because, I mean, I'm gonna be honest, like, a lot of the things that they were talking about, it was kind of hard for me to understand, like, the politics of it.
right.
Like, I really had to kind of look into it, because I was like, wait, what the fuck are you talking about? So, yeah, like, her beliefs and, like, what she did, like, it wasn't good. But also, like, her being tough and her having this, like, demeanor, I don't see that as a negative.
I don't either. But that's why she's a complicated and interesting character in this show, right? Because there are moments like that where there are parts where I do connect with her, where she's like, and let's be real, she gets the job of prime minister and her people are completely patronizing her. They're like pushing her off to the side. They're not taking her seriously. She gets rid of him. Good for her. Good for her. Why put up with any of that? And get nothing done? You know, I hate to say this because obviously the way she changed that country was for the worse. The way she changed the world was for the worse in the long run. But there is something, if we're going to divorce that from it, admirable about somebody who actually wants to implement change.
Yeah.
Because she actually believes in the ideas that she has. Unlike in today's world, where most politicians don't believe in anything but themselves and don't want to change anything.
Yeah.
So yes, on that level, there is something of an admirable trait to her character. I agree. I mean, but at the same time, I mean, look, she has some pretty badass moments where, I can't believe I just used that word, but I mean, for some people who would like to use that word with her, but she goes to war, which is, you know, morally reprehensible. Every time she goes to war, does something, it's like, you don't need to do that, but she does that. And then she throws a military parade for herself. There are little parts of her that I think do relish the militancy of it all. Because there's a parade that she throws for herself at the end of all of this. Even at the League of Nations, where she hilariously kind of like bodies them, because, you know, when she says like, well, what was the story? Because the League of Nations, they wanted to impose sanctions on South Africa because of apartheid. Margaret Thatcher did not want to do that. And she says, oh, because her son has a business in South Africa. So that played a big role in that.
Oh, that episode 2. That was...
Yeah.
Where they talk about her family. Oh,
yeah.
Hell no.
Well, I'm getting to that. Because that's another thing with Thatcher's character, right? But with the League of Nations, so she's so hell-bent on not, like, you know, committing to sanctions. So they give her like a softball word, I think signals. Okay, she agrees to that. They all sign it. She gives a press conference. And then she says something that is so underhanded, like, where like, yes, I agreed to signals, but with I don't know, the flip of a switch or with the turn of a direct, the signals can point in an entirely different direction. Then she just walks off, and kind of laughs at them. That was hilarious. Although of course it was, again, we should mention, morally reprehensible, because of course apartheid was disgusting, and you know, the sanctions would have definitely ended that a lot faster and would have gotten Nelson Mandela out of prison. But okay, yeah. Sure. I guess to me the closest I came to, and this is why this is, I think, one of the best episodes of the show. It also gave me like these really frustrating mixed emotions. It was episode 2, the Balmoral test. Holy crap. Because Thatcher, this is the show, this is the episode where I kind of felt the most sorry for her. Because, okay, she's a working class person. Okay, fine, great. The way the Royals, I mean, I have never felt more put off by them. Mm-hmm. How fucking snooty and up their own asses they were. And the whole concept of this Balmoral test, to go to the castle in Scotland, is basically throwing the prime ministers into the deep end of the pool to see if they sink or swim, if they're like them. Yeah. If they're one of them. And so what they do repeatedly is they throw the wrong information at them. They don't give them enough information about what to expect. So they show up to the house, and off the bat, just the weirdness ensues where they're being split off into 2 bedrooms, and she's like, why do we need 2 bedrooms? We just need the one. And then the staff looks at her like, okay. And then she asks about, one of the maid asks Thatcher about, I noticed you didn't bring any outside shoes. And Thatcher's like, right, and the maid just walks off. I don't understand why it would kill these people to be more transparent about what it is they actually mean with the questions. They look at the itinerary. They see that dinner is at 6, and it's formal dressing. Okay. So they show up to the dining area at 6. They're dressed. The royal family had just gotten back, and they kind of get pissed off because now they have to go and get changed. But that's not what the itinerary said, so what's the issue here? And then later, the next day, she's supposed to go hunting with them or stalking, whatever they call it, and then she's wearing the worst thing possible. Mm-hmm. Elizabeth doesn't even tell her that until they're already all the way out into the country. Like, she could have very easily have just asked her to change into something else or provided her with something to change into. She never says that. So Margaret goes back to the house, to the castle, I should say. Not a house, it's a fucking castle. And so she and her husband, DT, are in a living area, completely unaware of what it is. And then Margaret just cusses them out. It was hilarious, but also kind of like upsetting because like how the fuck would they know like she was sitting in Queen Victoria's chair? And then what was funny is that Margaret later says, as like Thatcher's getting the fuck out of there, why is she leaving? I was nice with her. What the fuck? What? You cussed her out. What do you mean you were nice to her? So like, man, if I were Thatcher, I would have gotten there was even a point where they were at I don't know what the event was even at, but she was like, what the hell am I doing here?
Oh, the game?
Yeah. What the hell am I doing here? So they just get the fuck away. And honestly, good for them. I would have done the same.
Yeah, I agree. That was the most uncomfortable I've been with them. And they've done pretty questionable things, so...
Yeah, and then especially when you juxtapose that with how, in that same episode... Diana is like getting she's acing all the tests. She's getting perfect 10s. And it is honestly kind of disgusting. Yeah. I mean, it really is all around just disgusting. And even as Charles says, like, again, Philip couldn't recognize the grotesque symbolism there of him like skinning a calf. at the same time while ordering his son to marry Diana. And you can definitely tell that Charles was really hoping that she would sink, which is why he invited her there in the first place.
So bad.
It's also just so deceptive too, because she seemed to especially make like a connection with Philip, Diana, and everything. Mm-hmm. You know, they like her, but then when she needs them, they can't run away fast enough.
Yeah.
For emotional support.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just, again, you just kind of feel like you just want to shake these people and be like, bro, what are you doing?
I know. But just to wrap up Thatcher, I think, Gillian Anderson did great. It was a great role for her. But then it ended, I mean, it was really fast the way they kind of kicked her out of office. I honestly, and I can't even tell you what the reason was. I guess because like one of her like people stabbed her in the back, and I guess she looked weak. Is that why she was? Okay, weird, but all right. I guess.
Yeah, it was, and then it happened like right after her and the Queen had a little like spat.
That's right, because the Queen was so pissed off, and I think rightfully so, because, I mean, Thatcher spit on the League of Nations, and, evidently that's the family that Elizabeth actually cares about. She fights more for them than the actual family, but hey, if that's what does it for you, sure. But no, she was pissed off, and she wanted to make her displeasure known to the trades. And then this is where I got pissed off. I don't even care if the press had any kind of point to their criticism of the Crown, commenting on this and then creating a constitutional crisis. The press created the crisis because they said there was a crisis. There wasn't an actual crisis. The actual crisis was in South Africa, was fucking apartheid. And what do the papers choose to focus on what the actual crisis is? Oh, the Queen is angry at the Prime Minister. And so that's the bigger story than the atrocities being committed in South Africa.
I mean, not much has changed.
No, it hasn't. It absolutely hasn't. The press has still have not been held to account for their many horrendous decisions. Decisions. And they basically give a political victory to fucking Margaret Thatcher. The press handed her a political. It just reeks of those years where CNN would not shut the fuck up about Hillary Clinton's emails. Who cares? The bigger issue is this fucking demagogue about to win the presidency, and you're helping him. And what happened? The demagogue won.
And like where that ended us in.
God damn! You see, this is why I'm sorry. I really am. But these tangents, it's in the show, so there's my excuse. But it's true though. It's true. That's what pissed me off. But at the same time, though, it's like
no. What got me so upset was that writer guy.
Oh yeah.
Oof. Yeah. I mean, yeah, what you said, yeah, that if that doesn't get you mad, I don't know. But that was so fucked up.
It was. it was. And I mean, I saw it coming a mile away. Because, like, of course, they would do that. They just throw him under the bus. Yeah, it's stupid. Okay. Completely and wholly unnecessary. I guess ultimately though, part of me did initially anyway, before it blew up in her face, and it shouldn't have blown up in her face. That's the thing that keeps pissing me off. She was right in her criticism.
Yeah,
she was right. Jesus Christ, she was right. And I was happy for her because finally she gets involved. There's human humanitarian crisis going on. And she's like, this is disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
And then, no, she has to retreat because how dare you? How dare you?
It sucks.
Yeah. Good episode.
It was
But
really
genuinely upsetting on every front, though. But with Thatcher, back to her conclusion and everything, yeah, it was a little confusing why she was being removed, but she was removed. But still, like, another piece of her that was just deeply troubling was her last card to play in one of her last audiences with Elizabeth was, you can save my job, but I'm going to need you to dissolve Parliament. And then she's like, what? For people not aware of what the comparison to that would be, think back to Star Wars Episode 4, where Emperor Palpatine dismissed and dissolved the Galactic Senate. Because why the fuck do we need a Senate? Dissolve Parliament.
Or even like, a few weeks ago.
Oh, yeah.
Make it more real.
yeah, right. The insurrection. I mean, that was, that was very much real, but it was clumsy in every way, shape, or form. But this was like the Prime Minister actively or formally requesting the Queen of England to dissolve the House of Parliament for Thatcher to stay on, and that's a bone-chilling proposition that clearly she dismissed. Like, no.
Yeah.
No. No, that's not happening. And she is right when she says, like, maybe that would work if you were popular, but no one likes you anymore.
Damn.
For power to, well, she's right.
Yeah.
People want you gone. It wouldn't work. And I guess that's when Thatcher realizes. But, still, she found it in herself to give her the Award of Merit. And you can tell that really did surprise and really move, emotionally speaking, Thatcher as she was walking out for the last time.
Yeah. And you kind of do feel bad. I mean, a little bit like her, because she, aside from what she did and aside from her beliefs, like how you said, she was actually trying.
Yeah.
And you could tell that she loved her job. Mm-hmm. Which you can't really say
and
much
me
about people
again
today.
as somebody who finds her complete persuasion disgusting and morally reprehensible, I can still find it in myself to empathize with her, because if that were me in that position, fighting as hard as something as I believed in for 11 and a half years, and then to be forced away from the thing that you love most, that would crush my soul.
Yeah. And also, like, not even to step down, to be pushed away, to have it being taken from you.
Yeah. That being said, 11 and a half years is a fucking long time.
I know. Why was she there that long if she wasn't popular?
I know, right? That is I guess it was political victories for starting a war and then winning the war.
Oh my god.
I know.
These people.
Every time.
Not even these people. People in general.
Yeah.
Forget. Very quickly.
Yeah. But then she's also like, again, she has her quirks as well. And she's repeatedly like shown as being misogynistic to her own gender, her own.
Yeah.
Many times.
Like I said earlier, it was cool seeing her as a woman be, at least like, because for the last 3 seasons, everybody's been, or every single one of them has been a guy, and multiple throughout each season. And she was the only one that was there for 1 whole season.
That's right.
But yeah, once that episode hit, I was like, oh, you're really sad. Like, you're a really sad person. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just like, I understand why some women have resentment towards other women. Because at least from what I got from her was, no, like, we air quote put ourselves as victims. And she's like, no, like, we just have to push through, like, blah blah blah. I get it in some sense, but at the same time it's like, you're not helping us either, or like, you're not helping. Yeah, you're just like not doing anything for that either. You're just kind of like on your own. But I guess that makes sense to who she is and what she believes in.
No, it makes perfect sense. I mean, they do touch on, I guess, a strained relationship with her mother that apparently has like traumatized her. She really adored her father and has really followed in, I guess, the grit of his footsteps in every way, at least what we see from these episodes. But no, there are just these small moments that just make you like, oh, okay. You know, when she said, when, you know, her son is back and they're they're, you know, having a celebratory dinner for him. And then he says that the people that he got lost with were emotional. And then she says to him, well, of course they were. They're women. Okay. That's
no. That's not how it works, bro. They're human.
I mean, she holds herself to a really high standard. I mean, there was this one audience she had with the Queen where she's breaking down crying because her son was lost, possibly dead at that point. And that's a very understandable thing to be, you know, broken up about, right? But she's like, damn, the first time a prime minister, you know, breaks into tears here and it'd be a woman. And Elizabeth's like, girl, you ain't the first and you won't be the last to cry in here.
Jeez.
Yeah. You even notice how she feels the need to, because there are two or three instances when she has company over, like I don't know if it was I guess part of her military leaders or something, but she has people over for dinner, but she feels the need to make the dinner herself and serve them the dinner. Remember that? How she she rushes home.
Strange.
Yeah, it was like she gets home, she has 30 minutes and she's making food for them. And it's like, okay, part of me is like, well, that could just mean that like she's a great host and she prides herself in like, you know, making sure that they're well fed. I mean, I can appreciate that. I can respect that. But when you put that against all these other moments, you're like, well, because she even says at Balmoral Castle, like,
she views men as the superior.
Yeah.
I don't even know what the fuck. And
she said, she says that it's a wife's job to unpack the husband's suitcase.
It completely contradicts what she actually believes.
Yeah, it
doesn't make sense to me.
At the same time, though, she does, I think, have some relatable traits to her. Like when we just mentioned previously, she was confused why the Queen had assigned 2 separate bedrooms for her and her husband. And like when she's insistent on the fact that, no, I mean, if you start sleeping somewhere else, then we'll grow apart. Yeah. Okay, I can appreciate that. That makes sense. Which makes us wonder, why the fuck do the couples in the royal family sleep in different bedrooms? I mean, that was a question that kept going off in my head when the king unfortunately passed away in season 1. And his wife wasn't there. Why isn't she sleeping next to him? Oh, I guess they have separate rooms. And it's not just a British thing. Apparently, that used to be a thing. I know my grandmother, when she was younger and when she had her husband, my grandfather, they had separate bedrooms.
Wow, I didn't know that.
I didn't. That was strange. I mean, I don't particularly know the details as to why that happened, but they had separate bedrooms at one point. Philip and Elizabeth have separate bedrooms. Charles and Diana have different zip codes, it seems like. Because like he's in Highgrove in his home, and then she's at Kensington Palace, I think, or whatever it is. But that is a pretty interesting commentary. Just one of the subtle things that, the show shows you.
It puts it like plants it in your head, like, oh, okay, this is why things are the way that they are.
Possibly so. Should we get to Margaret and her discovery?
Oh my God, episode, I'm so sorry. Like, I don't mean to make it sound offensive if it is offensive to some people, but that one kind of really freaked me out.
It was depressing. It was depressing on many levels.
Yes.
That may be an understatement. But like the fact that this revelation that Margaret uncovers, because she is seeking help, mental help, because after decades of being kicked in the ass by her sister, literally, or in the head,
honestly, I'm proud that I loved her. I mean, I love her in every season,
right?
And the difference is, in the other seasons, you just feel bad for her. And not that you don't feel bad for her in this one, but I feel like this one, she's actually trying.
She's trying,
to be like, no, like, this isn't the way that things should be. I'm going to do something about it. Mm-hmm. And, yeah, I love her.
And she makes this discovery.
And it's...
of her cousins. There were cousins that were believed to be long dead. Turns out they've been long institutionalized because they were born with defects. And they're in a particular institution that caters to those needs. I don't know the particular terminology, so I'm not going to... Mm-hmm. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. But
they're just disabled.
Disabled, right. But I think it was the Queen Mother, Queen Elizabeth, that said at the time the professional diagnoses for these people were stupid. That was at one point a literal professional term.
It wasn't it was I don't even want to say it because it sounds really bad.
That's not.
We'll go with that one.
Yeah. But it's terrible. And then when like Margaret confronts her about it, like they're on the beach and they're walking, and then like, this is hilarious to me because like, yeah, that is pretty true, because like when she brings up the abdication, then like Margaret like literally flips the fuck out and says like, no, not everything can be explained by the abdication, not everything. And then you realize, well, yeah, that they literally do blame everything on the abdication. Like everything was blamed on that. And like, I mean, like the Duke of Windsor is dead, man. Like he's rotting on the ground for a long time now, and you're still taking shots at him. That was hilarious. But then like, when she gets into the whole story, like she's explaining herself, it's so stupid. It is so incredibly horrendous. But again, it's like at that point, I'm not really shocked anymore, considering all the things I've learned about them. Like, remember last season when what was it? Alice, Princess Alice, Philip's mom. Look at what happened to her. Like, yeah, that's the kind of shit they always pull.
Yeah,
that's exactly the kind of shit they always pull.
I did enjoy that Margaret kind of made her mom feel bad about it.
Finally,
yeah,
finally.
The mom's a fucking bitch. Jeez.
Yeah. No, she is.
So yeah, again, be proud of Margaret. But yeah, her like even aside from this episode, I think that Margaret's story in this season was very interesting because she knows that she's not the age that she used to be. She feels lonely because she literally has nothing else to do. How come we never see her kids? I know. I was literally just thinking about that too. I'm like, wait, she has her kids. But we never see them. That's kind of where I'm getting at though. She blames all of the bad because of the crown, but also can't leave it.
That's her character flaw, isn't it? She can't
Yeah.
leave this thing. Like, you know, she's resentful of how little she has, and yet she's determined to hold on to as little as she has because that's all she has from what her perspective is. But, I mean, when a friend of hers joins the clergy at the Catholic Church, I mean, he makes some pretty solid points. You've learned repeatedly these horrible things that your family has done to you, and you've been repeatedly kicked down the totem pole. Why do you want to stay with them? Wouldn't you be happier if you just left this all behind? These are the people who have been making your entire life unhappy.
And she's like, no, I can't. And like, you kind of feel bad for her at that point because she feels like there's no way out now. But no, there is.
Yeah, I mean, the more you watch this show, the more you think to yourself, man, was Megan watching this show when she decided to, like, peace out?
Interesting. I would love to know that.
Especially since, like, they're also, I believe she works for Netflix on something now, so, like, and then Netflix is, of course, the home of The Crown and everything. So,
and I mean, she's a lot of things, but she was known for being an actress, so I would assume she watches stuff.
Yeah, and as we see, I think repeatedly in the show, Elizabeth's not that very fond of actresses, it seems. There was this funny moment where I want to recount this before it completely escapes my mind, but when Diana dances for Charles, and then Philip and Elizabeth are talking about it over breakfast the next day, and then he's like, you know, playing tongue-in-cheek with her and like asking, how come you never did that for me? And then she, like, not without missing a beat, she's like, if I recall correctly, you had your own ballerinas to do that for you. And he's like, you know, just loved it.
It was so good. It was so good.
That was great. Yeah.
But maybe we should go back to them.
We should. Where do we start to wrap it all up with them?
I mean, there is the trip that they did.
Oh, the Australia one. That was great.
Was interesting. I don't even.
Yeah.
There's a lot. I mean, there's the whole thing we mentioned earlier with the baby. I love this episode, but it just makes me so sad at the same time.
Same. No, same.
Like,
you know,
how?
It starts off in a really shitty place. It ends up in a surprisingly happy place, and then it ends predictably just going down the toilet.
Like, worse than we were before.
Yeah, if you can even imagine that.
And this episode, like, I mean, Charles does a lot of shitty things throughout the season, but this episode really, like, gets me mad at him.
So the crux of this episode, in this trip to Australia, you see glimpses of a relationship that may yet work. Maybe. Maybe. But I think the continuing frustration on our part, Alexis, is Charles, because of who he is, just taking things the absolute wrong way in most of these circumstances. Look, when they have their big fight, I think in the Outback, it felt like they actually made some progress. You know? And I guess to me, the only part of it that rang a little bit untrue is like, okay, he says that he loves her. Maybe a part of him did. And then later on in the episode, they get along a little bit more. They're dancing. There's this wonderful sequence where they're dancing to Can't Take My Eyes Off You. And for the briefest of moments, finally, there's a connection between these two that can maybe look like love. And then they spend the night together. And then the next morning, he refuses a call from Camilla. and you think, maybe this can work. And it gets you so incredibly upset because of what happens next.
Yeah. I mean, at least for me, like the whole time I'm thinking, how could this end so badly? Like, look at them right now. And then, yeah, everything that happened afterwards, I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, this is such, like, pettiness to another level. I just...
Charles, I hate to break it to you, man, but your personality, and look, you do what makes you happy, and you know, but take it from me, who my entire life, even my closest friends, have called me behind my back, apparently, somebody that has a stick up his butt, who is very serious, and perhaps on outward appearance, not somebody who it looks like to be having the most fun. But you, on the other hand, are very uppity, very pretentious, and you have your crowds. But recognize that personality, and just to be clear, I may have compared myself to him in this instance, but I'm not really that way. I think there's a misconception there. I can be a little bit more. I know perhaps my manner of speaking would suggest that I'm all proper and everything. I get that, but I mean, I'm really just a person. I like to have fun too, and I'm also not petty like this person is. But he should have also the lack of self-awareness with these people. Do you not get why people love Diana?
Yeah.
Because she reminds them of a regular person. You don't. And you never will because of who you are. So be okay with it. Be okay with it. Let your wife have the limelight.
Yeah.
And I guess to me, the issue is why primarily it's because like he's jealous and everything. That's who he is. And he can never get any kind of appreciation. But like I can also probably think maybe that if he sees that, damn, that could have been Camilla. And then I could have been happy. Yeah. Maybe that's where he's coming from.
There's a lot of things. I actually didn't think about the Camilla thing. That's interesting.
But Camilla also says to him, like, that's never going to be us. That's never going to be me.
Yeah.
I'm not like Diana. They're never going to love me. I'm going to be the one they hate if you go forward with, like, a formal separation.
Which...
We can't wait for season 5 to see how that works out then.
But, yeah, I think that... the way that he was raised, and
that's a very raised in quotation marks. Let's be real here.
Like he was very much ignored, raised with resentment from both parents and himself, and so I understand him being jealous of like, oh, that like, why is nobody looking at me the way that they're looking at her? Do you remember? This is actually. At one point in the season, I don't remember what episode, I think it was toward the end, he says something that's actually so sad, where I think Diana says, you know, I'm actually for the first time beginning to loathe you. And then he says, well, what's taking you so long? The rest of us have been there for a long time, himself included. Yeah. Which is really sad. Because he hates himself. There's an episode, I forgot, I think it's like when they're all sitting down talking about her, like Queen Margaret and Anne and stuff, and Anne, who I do like, but not in this instance, because I feel like she was the most like self-aware.
She by far was the most self-aware person,
but even she was jealous of her. At one point she says, I've done a lot of things that people don't talk about, but then here comes this person, and all they do is talk about her. Like I don't understand.
To be fair, and I think there is some truth in that her personality was just off-putting, and that is unfair, I think, to her accomplishments, just because she is who she is. But I mean, that that being said, she was not just her, but everybody. Like at one point it was Margaret and then also the queen herself. They all had their snidey little remarks about it. They were upset.
Yeah. And again, everything with them, and especially Charles, it's just ego, and they can't see past their own self. And the whole thing about like the people loving Diana, I don't understand why they can't just be like, oh, okay, maybe we should use her to get that connection, because obviously people don't feel connected to the royal family.
It was Diana, in context to the episode, it was because of Diana that Australia did not break away from the Commonwealth.
And I don't know, it was crazy. But yeah, that episode just makes me sad. And then, I mean, as the season keeps on going, you just see more and more anger from Charles towards Diana. And we haven't mentioned this, but like it affects her in such a big way, which is, I don't know. I think that's like the part that gets me like upset, because
that ended of it. No, go ahead, please.
No, just that like she has no, I don't know, like
she's no help. She has no help.
Yeah.
She is going through bulimia. Apparently that's the condition that she's going through.
Yeah.
And they know this. Everyone knows this.
Yeah.
And they don't seek help for her. These are people who are perhaps the richest family, or they have everything they could possibly want or need. And they know she's going through this condition. And at no point is it even spoken, much less thought of, procuring a person or some kind of medical help to get her through this situation. It's not just the husband, it's the family. They talk about her behind her back too. Like they say that she does things to herself, and they're just like, ew.
Yeah.
A normal person would be like, well, fuck, maybe I should go and get some help for her.
Yeah. And yeah, that's really bad. I don't support people who, I mean, basically abuse other people.
I think a lot of what we see this season, and maybe any season, can definitely be considered abuse.
Yeah.
A lot of abuse.
And then that when she goes to New York, that one I feel is like kind of showing her on her own, and how, you know, she can actually be of help, and she can, you know, I don't know, again, connect with normal people, and they just don't see that. And people were like really mad at the scene where she goes to a hospital and she hugs a kid who has AIDS. And Charles throws it back into her face and is like, I can't believe you did that. Like, basically saying, like, that's disgusting. Why would you do that? It's so bad.
Wow.
And again, I at least do get shocked by all of these, because not that they didn't show them in this light before, but I just can't believe that it could get worse every time.
Which really, we should be terrified about what we're going to see in season 5.
Yeah.
Because this is the elephant in the room, but I'm going to assume season 5 is going to cover the tragic death of Diana.
I think so.
That's not going to be fun to see.
No. Can you imagine they just skip over it?
They can't. How could they do that? I mean, I know that they're going to have to do that. They just do. And when that episode, that's going to be one of the most talked about episodes. And I'm pretty sure it's going to feature some kind of a angry comment from one of the royal family. That's for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Only because, like, how dare you bring this back up and everything. But,
well, you know the whole conspiracy theory, right? With that the family is the one that did everything. So I wonder if they're going to go that route.
I hadn't heard that.
Yeah.
That particular... Okay, let's entertain it for a couple of seconds. So how does this go like?
So I don't know like the full details on it, but so in a few interviews that Diana did in real life, she does mention that the family doesn't like her. At one point, one of the interviewers, which I think was one of her friends, which is why she allowed to be interviewed, was like, do you think you'll ever be queen? And she was like, no, they won't allow it. And so a lot of, I mean, it's kind of the same thing as Meghan Markle.
Was
obviously not that intense,
right?
Or as intense, but that the family just didn't like her, and so people think or assume that they had something to do with it to get rid of her, because by the time that she passed away, they were already either on the way of getting a divorce or were divorced, and she was with somebody else.
See, okay, that I guess we'll have to look up. I could look up what happened, but then I also want to see how the show does it.
I want to see the show.
So, like, yeah, I don't want to, like, go full on spoilers yet, because a lot of this, again, is stuff that, and again, not all of it is true, and a lot of it is fiction, but a lot of it, this is just information that obviously we don't know in history. Part of it is history. But, yeah, I'm also not clear on that matter, if they did reach a divorce or if they were about to start a divorce proceeding.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Which
interesting.
is another fun topic, because as we know from previous seasons, divorce is a big no-no. So that's the only reason why I would be like, maybe they had something to do with it because of the divorce.
But do you think the show will play into it?
I don't know. That's why I'm very like anxious to see it already.
I know. Oh boy. Well, the season basically ends in, Diana and Charles fighting again.
Oh, also, actually, going back, this is why I think they might play with that idea, because at the end of the last episode, Philip goes and talks to Diana and is basically threatening her, like, you better motherfucking stay.
That was something that stood out to me.
Yeah.
When he said, I don't see that ending well for you.
Yeah. So...
Whoa, okay.
Yeah, because they were both like gonna sit down with them and be like, we literally don't want to be together, like we hate each other. And both Philip and the Queen were like, too bad.
Which time? Literally, which time? Like, I know you mean the last one, but like no, so Charles goes and talks to Elizabeth, and then Philip actually goes and talks to Diana. Yeah, it's very interesting sort of sequences, but they don't care. They can't be bothered, and they're not interested in even having the discussion any longer from at least Elizabeth's perspective, and then Charles gets like a smackdown. Philip, goes and talks to her, and it's an interesting conversation, but again, it ends up in a predictable area where he kind of like, well, again, the only person that really matters is not any of us.
Yeah.
It's not about you. I get that, but from my perspective, I don't understand how that also has to mean complete ice and cold from everybody else. I don't know. Okay, but yeah, we end the season with another flash photography, as we do with it seems almost every season or every other season when we're losing a cast, but they're so good, and we're not gonna have any of the cast back again next season. So that's a little bit of like I'm excited for season 5. I can't wait for it. But again, at this time it will be a little bit more bittersweet in the sense that we're waiting a longer period of time now. I'm excited about it, and now there will be a new cast taking.
And I know
over.
about it this time.
Yeah, it's playing with familiar ground. But overall, when it comes to season 4, it may have been the best season yet. It's great, and I definitely do hope that it some of the cast wins some of the awards.
Yeah, I freaking hope so. Or else, you know who else is gonna win?
That's okay. Thank you, Alexis, for being here. Oh God. Thank you all for listening to our Crown recap series. We hope that you've enjoyed it. We hope that you've, had fun basically getting to talk gossip about all the British drama going on, and you can definitely watch the show on Netflix. We have other particular recap series that are planned. We haven't officially confirmed one or the other just yet because, as you know, the next 2 months are going to be jam-packed full of content, new content. For the first time, we have movies dropping on HBO Max. We have series on Disney Plus. So we're going to be having our hands full with that. But Alexis, you can definitely catch her on the Fantasy Fair podcast all month long in February and all the upcoming months. But for February, they're doing a short film-themed month to accompany the short month. So yeah. There's that. We also have our WandaVision recaps with David Francisco every single week. Those are fun. I had a particular rant in this last episode, so I'm sure you all look forward to it. To the Table will be coming back this month with Feel Good February with me, Peter, and Kyle. And also, as you might have noticed, this is episode 297. We're fast approaching for episode 300, and Mr. Lira and I have some plans, hopefully, but we'll see if it works out. But episode 300 is coming up pretty soon, and we hope to mark that special occasion with everybody involved. But thank you all so much for listening. Thank you in whatever way for making us get to 300 episodes, if we do in fact reach that, assuming the world doesn't come to an end by that point. Hey, catch your podcasts anywhere you listen to podcasts: Apple, Spotify, Castbox, YouTube, every single Sunday, sometimes on Thursdays, and possibly also on Tuesdays for WandaVision recap. So thank you all so much. Stay under the spotlight, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.